Yin Jiaming was a boy who dreamed of getting into a top university, but he ended up in the most dangerous high school in South Korea, where students admired violence more than education. In this school, even academic rankings were decided through one-on-one fights, and the strongest student had even created an app to update the rankings in real time. Despite such a chaotic environment, Jiaming still believed that studying could change his fate. Since childhood, he worked hard, but no matter how much he studied, he was always among the lowest-ranked students. In elementary school, he took gaming classes to improve his thinking skills, and after much effort, he finally managed to score third from the bottom in his class. When he reached middle school, he tried again, even hiring a private tutor for extra lessons. But once again, he ranked third from the bottom. Determined not to fail again, he dedicated all his time to studying, except for eating and sleeping. But instead of improving, he dropped one rank lower. Now, he was second from the bottom. This crushed his spirit. Then, he overheard two students talking about Meteor Industrial High School, which had direct admission to a vocational college. He thought this was his golden opportunity, but he didn't hear the rest of the conversation, where they said that going there was worse than death. Excited, Jiaming applied and got in, but as soon as he entered the classroom, he witnessed something that he would never forget for the rest of his life. His dream of university shattered again. The students in this school were extremely violent, and bullying was a daily occurrence. He thought that if he studied hard, he could still get into a good university, but no matter what he did, his grades remained consistent. He was still second from the bottom. Convinced that some of his classmates might secretly be good at studying, he approached one of them and invited him to study together. The boy seemed interested, but just then, another student, Xiao Huang, who was ranked 173rd, suddenly pushed down the class topper and challenged him to a fight. The entire class became excited. At first, the class topper avoided fighting, but another student warned him that refusing to fight would get him reported to the student council. With no other choice, the topper fought back but lost. Xiao Huang took his rank and moved up to 170th place, while the class topper dropped one rank. The rankings were updated and sent to all students' phones. That same day, a new teacher, Li Hanjing, arrived. He was none other than Jiaming's old middle school tutor. However, the students showed no respect. One loudly farted to mock the teacher, and another threw his coffee at him. But instead of getting angry, the highest-ranked student in the class walked up to the boy who farted and slapped him hard. The entire class went silent. When the lesson ended, Jiaming followed the class topper everywhere, mumbling about how nice it would be to have a study partner. No matter how the topper reacted, Jiaming stayed by his side, and eventually, the topper agreed to study with him. However, when they started, Jiaming got stuck on the very first question. Why was 0.9 repeating equal to 1? The topper tried to explain with an example, saying that if a cake is divided into 3 equal parts, each part is 0.3 repeating, and when combined, they make 0.9 repeating, which is still equal to 1 full cake. But Jiaming disagreed, arguing that the crumbs left on the knife should also be counted. This made the topper laugh in disbelief. Though Jiaming was the worst student in academics, he was skilled in many other areas. He observed that the topper had calluses on his right middle finger from writing too much. His bangs were long, but didn't cover his eyes, and most importantly, his eyes were filled with the desire to learn. So he invited him to study together again, but the topper firmly refused, saying that Pai Hanwei wouldn't let good students survive. Pai Hanwei, the son of the most powerful gang leader in the area, had designed an app to force students to fight for rankings constantly, but Jiaming didn't care. He found the topper's report card and discovered that he was ranked second in the entire school. Jiaming was confident that if they studied together, they could both get into a good university. However, to his shock, the topper immediately tore up his own report card and seriously refused. Meanwhile, the top-ranked student in the class was bullying the topper, demanding 200,000 won as protection money. Just then, a masked figure wearing a welding helmet stormed into the warehouse with a fire extinguisher, filling the entire place with dust and using the chaos to rescue the topper. It was none other than Jiaming himself. The topper didn't want to get Jiaming involved, so he tried to leave alone, but he was soon confronted by the #1 student. What they didn't know was that Jiaming had been training in martial arts since 3rd grade, believing that physical fitness would help him study better. He had even trained under a professional martial arts coach. The next day, Jiaming tried to return the topper's notes, but before he could, the #1 student smashed a chair over his head and accused him of being too close to the topper. Yin Jiaming, who was once seen as just an ordinary bottom-ranked student, was actually the masked fighter who had saved his classmate, and now, a major battle between him and the top-ranked student in the class was about to begin. Jiaming was a hard-working and disciplined student, yet no matter how much he studied, his grades never improved. However, he seemed to have maxed out all other life skills. Within just 1 week of starting high school, he had beaten the top-ranked slacker in the class so badly that the guy couldn't even stand. But despite being the victim of bullying, the school director decided to expel him to settle the matter quickly. It was only because of the homeroom teacher's insistence that the school leadership agreed to give Jiaming a chance. If he could form a study group that would help improve the school environment, they would cancel his expulsion. The catch? Jiaming had to create this group on his own. Meanwhile, the top-ranked student was summoned by the school's overall strongest fighter and was given a task to complete. That same afternoon, the homeroom teacher informed Jiaming and the class topper that their study group would only be recognized if if they could find 5 members within 2 weeks. The class topper was horrified, finding 3 more students in this school who actually wanted to study. That was like climbing to the heavens, but their teacher believed in them, so Jiaming quickly put up recruitment posters, confident he would find 5 students in no time. However, 2 days passed and not a single person signed up. At the same time, terrifying rumors spread around the school about Jiaming. Some claimed he was a demon, and others swore they saw him move so fast that his legs were on fire when he kicked the top-ranked student. The third-ranked student in the school refused to believe these stories and decided to challenge Jiaming to a duel. Unaware of the challenge, Jiaming mistakenly thought the guy wanted to join the study group and warmly greeted him. When the third-ranked student suddenly collapsed, Jiaming, thinking he had fainted, patted his face to wake him up. But to the onlookers, this scene looked completely brutal. Not only had Jiaming won the duel, but he was now humiliating his opponent. The rumors escalated to version 2.0, with stories claiming Jiaming had dragged the unconscious student to the library and smashed his head with a math book before finishing him off with a flower pot. Soon, the lower-ranked students became terrified of Jiaming, making it impossible to recruit members for the study group. 1 week later, the homeroom teacher took Jiaming and the class topper out for a nice meal and bought them new study materials as encouragement. But when they returned home, they found that someone had broken into their apartment. Before the intruder could attack, the lights were suddenly cut off, and a mysterious person swiftly took down 2 thugs before grabbing the teacher and running outside. They managed to escape into an elevator and entered an underground parking lot, but their pursuers quickly caught up. Thinking fast, the teacher tried to call the police using the mystery man's phone, but before he could dial, they were ambushed. Although the mystery man was skilled in combat, the enemies outnumbered him, and he was quickly knocked out with a blow to the stomach. Just as the leader was about to finish off the teacher, Jiaming single-handedly took down every enemy present, forcing them to flee. The mystery man, now conscious, watched the retreating thugs with burning rage, because these were the same people who had killed his mother. The next day, Jiaming finally received some good news. A student named Li Jiyu wanted to join the study group. Fearing she might change her mind, Jiaming and the class topper immediately rushed to her classroom, only to realize it was the girls' class. As soon as they entered, a girl with wavy hair shouted, "Li Jiyu!" When they saw her, the class topper immediately suggested giving up on recruiting her, because Li Jiyu was actually the top-ranked student's older sister. But before he could even finish speaking, the wavy-haired girl slapped Jiyu across the face, grabbed her study plans, and mocked her for even thinking about exams. Jiyu didn't react at first, but when the wavy-haired girl turned her attention to another girl, Siyuan, Jiyu warned her. Bullying her was one thing, but she would not allow anyone to harm her friend. Enraged, the wavy-haired girl went on a furious rant and tried to spit chewing gum onto Ziyu's study plan, but before she could, a powerful student named Kui Xiong, one of the top 10 ranked fighters in the school, walked into the classroom. Realizing the situation was about to escalate, the class topper immediately dragged Jiaming out of the classroom before things got worse. Kui Xiong was a student council enforcer, and without hearing any explanation, he punished Jiyu. He warned her that if she didn't obey, he would expose her secret. With no choice, Jiyu silently stretched out her hand, allowing him to hit her. But just as he was about to, Jiaming suddenly appeared. However, Kui Xiong was no pushover. He grabbed Jiaming's glasses and prepared for a major fight. Just as the battle was about to begin, the school director called Kui Xiong away, preventing an all-out war. Afterward, the class topper couldn't understand why Jiaming had provoked the student council. Jiaming's answer was simple. He couldn't stand by and watch a potential study group member get bullied. While the class topper worried about how to deal with the situation, Siyuan approached them. She revealed that she had secretly signed up for the study group using Jiyu's name, and now begged Jiaming and the class topper to help Jiyu. As it turned out, Jiyu's younger brother had once been robbed of a huge amount of cash, and Kui Xiong had helped retrieve it, but at a cost. Kui Xiong secretly recorded a video of the boy stealing from an ATM and had been blackmailing Jiyu ever since. Although the siblings didn't get along, Jiyu had no choice but to endure the bullying to protect her brother. Siyuan pleaded with Jiaming and the class topper, saying that if they could erase that blackmail video, both she and Jiyu would officially join the study group. Yin Jiaming immediately agreed to let Siyuan join the study group because of her sincerity, but the class topper hesitated. Siyuan used her ultimate weapon, her adorable charm, and within seconds the class topper agreed without a second thought. However, Siyuan warned them that the USB drive containing the blackmail video was in the student council office. The class topper instantly changed his mind because the student council was the school's officially recognized bullying organization. Instead of maintaining discipline, they encouraged fights and duels, making them feared by all. But Jiaming was not an ordinary student. However, this time, even he struggled, as 4 trained judo fighters pinned him down, giving Kui Xiong the opportunity to upload the blackmail video online. But he underestimated Jiaming's determination to study. Jiaming forced himself up, blocking the council members just as the computer slid toward the class topper. Seeing Siyuan on the side, the class topper made a bold decision. He grabbed the computer and ran. He sprinted all the way to the rooftop and, with a final burst of courage, threw the CPU off the building before turning back and using a martial arts move to restrain Kui Xiong, proving that his combat skills were no joke. Furious but defeated, Kui Xiong had no choice but to accept his loss. And with that, the wrestling master and the fierce yet adorable Siyuan officially joined the study group. That afternoon, news spread across the school that Jiaming had single-handedly taken down the student council, and the top-ranked fighter in the school was not happy. He decided to challenge Jiaming and use him as an example to warn other students against joining the study group. But Jiaming was excited when he heard someone wanted to join, only to realize that the top-ranked fighter had torn the sign-up sheets and threatened to educate anyone who tried to join. What he didn't realize was that this angered Jiaming more than anything, because Jiaming loved studying. Meanwhile, a red-haired boy had always dreamed of being strong, but every time he got into a fight, he ended up getting beaten to a pulp. At first, he thought it was because his body was weak, so he trained by wearing short sleeves in freezing winters, building an incredible physique. However, even though he became resistant to pain, he still couldn't win a fight. So he trained every day on his way to and from school, but no matter what he did, he still lost. Then, he overheard a conversation about Meteor Industrial High School, where all the students were fighting geniuses. This gave him hope, and he immediately enrolled. But on the first day, he saw something so shocking that he could never forget it. Wait, why do I feel like I've heard this story before? Unlike Jiaming, Lee Jun came to the school to learn how to fight. He trained hard, rising through the rankings, and finally reached 17th place. But no matter how much he tried, he couldn't go any higher. He had hit a bottleneck. Then one day, he saw Jiaming use a move where he hooked his foot through his backpack strap and spun it mid-air, instantly knocking out his opponent. This inspired Lee Jun to join the study group. However, Jiaming refused, stating that the study group was about learning, not increasing combat rankings. Lee Jun quickly changed his approach, saying that he wanted to study too. Jiaming got interested and handed him a math test, telling him to finish it before school ended. Later that day, a mysterious person stormed into the classroom and mistook Lee Jun for Jiaming, assuming he was the legendary fighting genius. Without hesitation, they kidnapped him and took him away in a car. Lee Jun found himself at a secret recruitment event, where only the top 3 fighters from each school were allowed to participate. The winners would get expensive cars and designer bags. Meanwhile, Jiaming and the study group realized Lee Jun was missing. Siyuan was convinced that he had run away to escape studying, but Jiaming believed in him. Just then, Jian Ye, the mysterious transfer student, rushed over with urgent news. Meanwhile, Lee Jun was beaten badly, unable to fight back. The gang leader realized he wasn't actually Jiaming and decided he needed to be punished for lying. Just as Lee Jun was about to be severely hurt, Jiaming appeared, holding up Lee Jun's test paper, shouting, "A score of 24 is good enough to join the study group." At that moment, Meteor Industrial High School versus the Outside Gang. A huge fight was about to erupt. However, the wrestling master of the study group was no match for the gang's second-in-command. Jian Ye fought fiercely against the leader, but the battle remained undecided. Meanwhile, Jiaming faced a knife-wielding thug, but instead of panicking, he rolled his test paper into a tube, believing in the power of education. Could he really save Lee Jun with his skills? Seeing a fellow student being beaten for wanting to study, Jiaming unleashed the ultimate move, a technique that his uncle had sealed away when he was a child. With this hidden power, he effortlessly defeated the gang leader. But just as he caught his breath, the reward car suddenly started moving, and out stepped a mysterious boy wearing a cap. He was curious about Jiaming, wondering why he refused to join the gang. He sneered, saying that school grades wouldn't matter once they entered the real world, but no one expected Jiaming's response. As he helped Lee Jun to his feet, he firmly declared that everyone in the study group would go to university. The cap-wearing boy burst into laughter, but his gaze shifted toward Jian Ye, as if recognizing him. Could it be because of his mother's final words? Instead of answering, the boy drove off without further explanation. Not long after, the class topper and Siyuan arrived with the police, leading to the arrest of all the gang members. However, even though they all knew that P. Singwei was the mastermind behind everything, the police chief refused to arrest him, saying that a powerful force in the system was protecting him. Eventually, the case was closed, but Jiaming was nowhere to be found. It turned out that despite his incredible combat skills, Jiaming was absolutely terrified of his mother. They had an agreement. If he wasn't home before 10 p.m., the consequences would be severe. Meanwhile, Pai Singwei and the cap-wearing boy finally acknowledged Jiaming's strength and began planning something big. At the same time, the study group was finally complete, with 5 official members. But now, they faced a new problem. What would their next step be? As the leader, Jiaming made a bold decision. From now on, they would study for 14 hours a day. But despite this, he still found time to train daily. When the monthly exams arrived, despite all their hard work, the 5 members of the study group scored a total of less than 20 points across 6 subjects. The homeroom teacher couldn't sit still any longer. Since the study group had already been formed, it was necessary to participate in inter-school exchange activities to learn from other study groups. So, dressed in their best clothes, they traveled to Seoul, the capital city. However, the moment they arrived, they ran into trouble. 2 local thugs immediately slapped Lee Jun hard, trying to pick a fight. Cut to the next scene. The thugs were kneeling on the ground, bruised and swollen, begging for forgiveness. If the teacher hadn't arrived, they probably wouldn't have even gotten the chance to escape. Soon, under the teacher's leadership, the group stepped into the most prestigious school in South Korea, Man-yi High School. The contrast between the two groups was immediately obvious. Lee Jun and the others were rough around the edges, while the Man-yi students looked like straight-A scholars. At that moment, Lee Jun suddenly realized, where was Jiaming? It turned out Jiaming had misread the directions and mistakenly went to a school with a similar name, Wan-yi High School instead of Man-yi High School. What interesting events would unfold next? While the top-ranked high school in the nation was located across the street, its elite students were being bullied by students from a lower-tier school. Even though the bullied students came from wealthy families, they didn't dare report to the school board or the police because they knew that anyone who did would face immediate retaliation that night. Last month, a student's father had been attacked and was still in a coma, while the perpetrators were merely sent to juvenile detention for a short time. This situation completely killed the motivation of these bright students, making them lose interest in studying altogether. And the school responsible for these problems? It was the very same Wanyi High School that Jiaming had mistakenly entered. At first, Jiaming was captivated by the graffiti on the walls, marveling at the strong artistic atmosphere. When he saw traces of blood on the ground, he assumed that students had worked so hard studying that they got nosebleeds. But the deeper he walked inside, the more he realized something was wrong. The student assigned to welcome visitors had a ferocious expression, and the atmosphere felt dangerous. Then, Jiaming accidentally stepped on something. Inside, a top student was pleading with his mother for protection money. The students in this school were so used to the constant fights outside that they ignored the chaotic noise. But today, the disturbance seemed bigger than usual. A fat bully decided to check it out, but before he could, Jiaming returned a pair of glasses to a struggling student. Before they could even exchange words, the strongest fighter in Wanyi High School appeared behind them. Jiaming placed his phone on a nearby table, planning to call his friends for backup, but the battle had already begun. Just as Shi Yuan had once predicted, the moment Jiaming removed his glasses, it was like unlocking a hidden power. The school boss tried to lift Jiaming high into the air, but Jiaming used his opponent's momentum to swing himself up, delivering a devastating knee strike to the boss's face. In an instant, the fight was over. With Wanyi High School's crisis resolved, the top students proposed a one-on-one tutoring system. Each elite student would mentor one Meteor High School student, targeting their weaknesses. Overall, this study exchange trip was a huge success. A few days later, their school finally approved their study group, granting them a dedicated activity room. Though the place was covered in dust and cobwebs, Jiaming couldn't have been happier. As long as he had a quiet place to study, he felt unstoppable. After an entire morning of cleaning, the room finally looked presentable. But just as they settled in, an unexpected visitor arrived, a troublemaker. This wasn't just anyone. He was the top-ranked student in the entire school, and even the class topper seemed intimidated by him. The new arrival mocked the study group, calling them hopeless losers. He sneered, saying that even if they combined their brains together, they still wouldn't make one complete mind. Jiaming was about to teach him a lesson, but the class topper stopped him, reminding him that the #1 ranked student was heavily protected by the school leadership. Just then, the homeroom teacher entered, subtly helping to diffuse the situation and preventing things from escalating. However, after being insulted so badly, Jiaming made a firm decision in his heart. He looked up, his eyes filled with determination, and declared, "From now on, I'm going to prove that our study group can achieve the impossible." Everyone, including the homeroom teacher, was stunned. After all, Jiaming was known as the king of low scores. No one expected him to react like this. But the teacher hadn't come just to chat. He had an important announcement to make. Before that, he wanted everyone to know exactly where they stood in their academics. So he started calling out their latest test results. Zhiyun, average score 14, school rank 180. Jiaming let out a loud gasp. Li Jun, average score 31, school rank 132. Jiaming gasped again. Siyuan, average score 29, school rank 162. This time, Jiaming went, "Wow, class topper, average score 95, school rank 2. Then, the teacher gave them a challenge. Before the next exam, they had to move up at least 10 ranks. Sounds tough, right? Well, for most of them, it was possible. But for the class topper, it was a nightmare. Because for him, moving up meant beating the #1 student. But here's the thing, the class topper had a rough past. His father was abusive, his mother suffered, and no matter how hard he worked, he never got any praise. To make things worse, he was constantly bullied by the top student and his gang. That night, as he walked home with Xiwan, things took a dark turn. The top student's gang showed up again. There was no way they could win, or at least that's what they thought. But then, something crazy happened. Out of nowhere, a mysterious figure appeared, and in just 2 moves, the gang leader was knocked out cold. Despite being saved, the class topper felt crushed. He didn't want to be weak anymore. He didn't want to always be overshadowed. And most of all, he didn't want to feel useless in front of someone he liked. So instead of celebrating, he walked away, lost in thought. That night, Jiaming found him. He wanted to help him get his confidence back. But there was one big problem. Jiaming's mom had a strict rule. He must be home before 10 p.m. So before they could really talk, Jiaming had to rush home. But things were far from over. On his way to his part-time job, the class topper ran into the gang again. This time, they were out for revenge. Just then, his phone rang. It was Jiaming. Through the call, Jiaming started guiding him step by step on how to fight back. And guess what? It worked. For the first time ever, the class topper stood up for himself. He fought back and held his ground. But just when things were looking good, his phone battery died. Uh-oh. Jiaming immediately sensed something was wrong. Without wasting a second, he sprinted toward the fight. But by the time he got there, it was too late. Word had already spread that a rich student's parents wanted to transfer their child to another school. The rumor? People were saying it was because the class topper had a crush on her. But even worse, Jiaming had broken his curfew. By the time he finally reached home, his mother was already waiting for him downstairs. She knew something had happened. She could tell there was trouble. But in the end, that didn't matter. Without hesitation, she made her decision. She looked Jiaming straight in the eye and said, "Starting tomorrow, you're transferring schools." He knew his mother was a decisive person. Even when she divorced his father, father, she only informed him the night before. The next day, the study group found out about it. They mistakenly thought that Jiaming's mother didn't like the school environment, which was why she forced the group leader to transfer. The top student reminded everyone that they first needed to prove they weren't bad students. Just then, a kid in front of them was blatantly causing trouble. The study group, worried that Jiaming's mother might see, immediately launched their operation plan. However, despite their efforts, Jiaming's mother found evidence of the school's chaos elsewhere. Seeing that their first plan failed, the study group quickly moved to the second phase. Xuan stopped the car, grabbed the top student, and started introducing him, saying he was an excellent student, ranked second in the school. Li Jun, strong and imposing, shouted and leaned against the car door, raising his eyebrows, always seeing Jiaming as a rival. However, the more they talked, the more outrageous it became, and they were silenced by a deep, healing voice. Just when everyone was at a loss, Xuan suddenly approached, saying something she immediately regretted. Finally, under the gaze of the four, Jiaming's mother drove away from Meteor Palace Night High School. The scene shifted to the homeroom teacher driving the car with the study group members, chasing after Jiaming's mother. Her driving skills were impressive, shaking the students in the back seat. Just then, a group of motorcycles blocked the car's path. The leader was the school's top fighter, who immediately started fighting with the healer and Li Jun. However, the top fighter wasn't easy to handle. To catch up with Jiaming quickly, Li Jun let the healer escort the teacher ahead, while he stayed behind to hold off the attacker. Why did Li Jun do the impossible? He had learned a move from Jiaming, a forbidden self-defense technique called Tangshan's Fierce Dragon Flying Kick. Could they successfully persuade Jiaming's mother not to transfer Jiaming? Unexpectedly, the strongest fighter turned out to be the protagonist's mother. The homeroom teacher and the study group caught up with Jiaming's mother. They had met once before after tutoring. A teacher named Zheng Hua wanted to change the current state of Meteor High School, but lost his life in the process. The homeroom teacher had always idolized him and was deeply saddened by the tragedy. Jiaming's mother encouraged the homeroom teacher, believing she would become a teacher like Zheng Hua. This belief supported the homeroom teacher to this day, and she hoped Jiaming's mother would trust the children and believe in their growth. However, just then, Pai Hanwei's men stormed into the living room. Since the homeroom teacher had reported the school, the hat-wearing man wanted to talk to her, clearly with ill intentions. Unexpectedly, when Jiaming removed her glasses, her mother acted first. To briefly introduce, Jiaming's mother was the chairman of the Taekwondo Association, and her combat skills were superior to Jiaming's. The two groups instantly clashed. Jiaming's mother, protecting the homeroom teacher, was hit on the back of her head by glass shattered by a steel ball, instantly losing consciousness. The scene shifted to Jiaming waking up before dawn and rushing to the rooftop to confront Pai Hanwei. Blocking Jiaming was the renowned Three Irons of Yanshu, with the yellow-haired one being particularly strong, undefeated so far. As the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands, and a good tiger can't fight a pack of wolves. Jiaming was still no match for the 3 irons. Just then, she remembered her uncle's teachings. Don't be influenced by the outside world. Don't become a fool who can't fight back. So, Jiaming decided to use her sealed second move. She first poked the yellow-haired one's eyes, then used a lion steals the peach move on the other two, quickly ending the fight. However, she didn't steal the peach, but ended up with a red date in her hand. Finally, after subduing the yellow-haired one with the Tangshan's Fierce Dragon Flying Kick, Jiaming resolutely charged into the school meeting hall and punched Pai Hanwei in the face. What would happen next? When he wore glasses, he was the most eager to learn in the entire grade, but once he took them off, he became a martial arts master. Jiaming, in front of the entire school, punched Pai Hanwei hard, and Pai Hanwei countered with a swallow flip 360 reverse kick. The two officially declared war on each other. That night, Jiaming met Da Ti, who was taking care of his family at the hospital. Jiaming didn't understand why Da Tai had to listen to Pai Hanwei. Da Tai actually wanted to study, but what was the use of trying hard only in his 3rd year of high school? Even if he got into college, would he necessarily find a good job after graduation? But following Pai Hanwei was different. He could join the family construction company right after high school. However, before he could finish, 2 people walked in. They were the school candidate's instructors, there to take Da Tai away. Da Tai knew something was wrong and pretended not to know Jiaming, telling him not to follow, but before leaving he turned back for a glance. The next morning, the news reported that a high school student had killed a 40-year-old man. Everyone immediately recognized the student as Da Ti. Jiaming, recalling Da Tai's lonely figure, decided to investigate the matter. The top student didn't understand why Jiaming had to do this. Everyone forgot that besides being a great fighter, Jiaming also had the ability to discern whether someone loved learning. He saw the potential for learning in Da Ti's eyes. How could someone with such ambition kill? Soon, the top student conducted an investigation. There was a hidden implication. Since Pai Hanwei came to the school, the crime rate among high school students had significantly increased, but the overall crime rate hadn't changed much. This meant that adults were using high school students to commit crimes, as students were protected by the law and could get parole within a few years even if they killed someone. It was easy to understand. Work for Pai Hanwei, serve a few years, and then join the family construction company as a professional. Hearing this, some were confused. Did this prove Da Tai wasn't a murderer? That night, the second of the 3 irons of Yanshu stopped Jiaming. He revealed that Da Tai wasn't the murderer, but before he could finish, an instructor kicked him to the ground, accusing him of spreading nonsense and muttering about finding a place to educate him properly. Hearing the word educate, Jiaming became interested. He stopped the instructor and asked if he meant studying together. The instructor, misunderstanding, shouted that even if it was studying, he wouldn't take Jiaming along. Hearing this, Jiaming slowly took off his glasses. Seeing Jiaming so clever, the second iron felt relieved and confessed. On the day of the incident, he saw a family member cleaning a bloody knife. Combined with the open secret that the school prepared family members as scapegoats, he was sure Dati didn't kill anyone. The next day, Jiaming told the group about this, and they decided to investigate further within the family. After all, if they wanted to discard something, they wouldn't clean it. That afternoon, they got 3 Yongchang High School uniforms from a local contact, planning to infiltrate the school as candidates. The healer thought it was childish and they would definitely be arrested. Unexpectedly, the 2 security guards were lenient, not only letting them pass without checking, but also encouraging them to perform well inside. Although they didn't understand the meaning, the 3 decided to be cautious. Sure enough, as soon as they entered the hall, they saw a crowd gathered because it was the family's weekly candidate meeting. Jiaming thought they couldn't just leave, so they decided to take the stairs and sneak up. However, as soon as they exited the safety passage, Pai Hanwei's group came towards them. The healer quickly led them to hide, but they miscalculated. They thought the others would assume they were hiding below, but they were actually on the second floor, anticipating the anticipation. However, when they turned around, they found Jiaming wasn't following. A bad feeling instantly arose. Indeed, Jiaming didn't understand the healer's anticipation and was blocked by an instructor on the top floor. Although he wasn't discovered, he was locked on the rooftop. Meanwhile, the healer didn't sit idle. He found the bloody dagger in an office and was about to escape when he heard footsteps outside, so he hid under the desk. He loved studying, and after exams, he eavesdropped on classmates discussing answers. However, the more he listened, the worse he felt because they were discussing whether to choose A or B, while he had filled in C. The healer managed to escape with the weapon but was caught by the instructor, who threatened that the more he struggled, the more excited he got. The healer tried to resist with judo techniques. Meanwhile, Jiaming's notebook accidentally fell from the rooftop. Seeing it hit someone, he hid. After a while, when he decided to check the situation, he saw the instructor carrying the healer out of the building. In this life-threatening crisis, Jiaming had to use a move forbidden by his uncle. Meanwhile, the instructor was about to take the healer to a hotel to assault him when Dati, who had lost his way, stopped him. However, Dati was no match and was quickly beaten. Just as he was about to be killed, the second and third irons arrived. Meanwhile, the healer in the car woke up groggily. Seeing the weapon still there, he ignored his pain and quietly got out of the car to escape. However, the 3 irons of Yanshu had already been defeated by the instructor alone. Worried about his companions, he rushed out and shouted. The scene shifted, and even the combined attack of the 4 couldn't defeat the instructor. Just then, a man appeared, kicking open the steel door locked on the rooftop and standing in front of everyone with a custom nunchaku. The instructor knocked down Jiaming, thinking he had lost his fighting ability, and kept taunting him. However, Jiaming's uncle's voice echoed in his ears, and he suddenly stood up, catching the instructor's punch with his left hand and pressing his right hand firmly on the instructor's stomach. With 4 fingers together and the thumb locked, he could concentrate all his strength into one point. This close-range punch was the ultimate skill forbidden by his uncle, Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch from the Big Boss. Thus, Datai's crisis was resolved. In the following days, the study group members put in 120% effort into studying. Finally, their hard work paid off, and everyone's grades improved by more than 10 places. Jiaming was the happiest, jumping from 219th to 209th, an epic improvement. The disciplinary committee also agreed to the homeroom teacher's request to hold a disciplinary meeting for Pai Hanwei. However, on the afternoon of the announcement, Meteor Industrial High School experienced its largest brawl ever. Pai Hanwei didn't allow others to study, so what countermeasures would the study group take? The Korean drama study group finally reached its climax. Some were concerned about whether the school bully would be punished, while others worried about whether the underachievers would get into college. Thanks to the efforts of the homeroom teacher and the study group, the school's atmosphere improved unprecedentedly, and a decision was made to hold a disciplinary committee meeting for Pi Hanwei. However, Pi Hanwei assured his father he would handle it. The next morning, news media reported that Meteor Industrial High School was a school for delinquents, and that the study group was a front. Meanwhile, Pi Hanwei posted a bounty on a gaming app, offering 1 million won to anyone who could rise in rank within an hour. Suddenly, the quiet campus turned into a battlefield. Even friends of the top student, influenced by thugs, wanted to claim the hefty reward. The study group members knew they couldn't fight back, or they would confirm the reports of being delinquents. Meanwhile, the dean pressured the homeroom teacher to either disband the study group or cancel the disciplinary committee meeting for Pai Hanwei. Justice was temporarily at a disadvantage, but the homeroom teacher encouraged the children to believe that the hardship was temporary and that she would bring justice to all. That night, parents who didn't know the truth took Shiyuan away. They believed in their daughter but weren't sure about the others. Soon, the top student left the group chat and Shiyuan's avatar went dark. But Jiaming truly loved studying. He told his mother about the study group and how sad he was. Unexpectedly, Jiaming's mother told him she allowed him to stay at Meteor Industrial because he was truly happy there. Jiaming suddenly realized that what made him happy in high school wasn't just studying but also the like-minded friends who worked hard together for the same goal. He instantly cheered up. The next morning, he cleaned up the abandoned activity room, persuaded the top student's stubborn father, bribed Siyuan's parents with flattery and inspired the lonely healer. As for the simple-minded Lee Jun, they didn't need to persuade him because he was already Jiaming's fan. Thus, the study group reunited, and the final battle with Pai Hanwei officially began. Jiaming believed they must hand Pi Hanwei over to the disciplinary committee. However, Da Ti revealed that a year ago, teacher Wu wanted to do the same but was killed the night before the meeting. Although the police deemed it a random crime, everyone in the school knew Pai Hanwei was behind it. Moreover, Meteor Industrial High School seemed like a school, but it was actually a place donated by Pai Hanwei's father for his son to graduate smoothly. If Pi Hanwei were expelled, the family wouldn't sit idly by. Hearing this, everyone was troubled, as the disciplinary committee was initiated by the homeroom teacher, and it concerned her safety. Jiaming came up with an idea: protect the homeroom teacher before the disciplinary committee meeting. The scene shifted to less than 12 hours before the meeting. The dean suddenly called, asking the homeroom teacher to come to the school immediately to report all the criminal evidence of the group. The homeroom teacher, being cautious, asked the police to wait outside for backup before entering the office to meet the dean. However, before they could discuss the key evidence, all the lights went out. The dean fled, and the school fell into dead silence. The homeroom teacher tried to escape but was blocked by 4 members of the family. Meanwhile, the police outside were also dealt with. Just as the homeroom teacher's life hung in the balance, the school broadcast suddenly announced that Luo Jiaming and the study group had arrived. The final battle began. To ensure the homeroom teacher's safety, Jiaming had the less combat-capable members escort her away, splitting the battlefield into 4 areas: Jiaming on the rooftop against Pai Hanwei, Lee Jun on the first floor against his childhood friend, Da Ti, and Ji Yu in the classroom against 2 of the 4 family members, and the top student delaying the hat-wearing brothers. The study group was at a disadvantage, and even Jiaming seemed no match for Pai Hanwei. However, the tide turned in an instant. Ji Yu and Da Ti, after being beaten, teamed up to fight back. The top student, though running for his life, managed to delay the hat-wearing brothers until they ran out of bullets. Lee Jun, though stabbed in the chest by his childhood friend, finally saw his true nature and knocked him out with a few punches. The new combination of the two caught 2 of the 4 family members off guard, leaving them unable to fight back. Da Tai took the opportunity to use Ji Yu's technique, locking onto the curly-haired one's right arm and twisting it until it broke. Meanwhile, Ji Yu, after being pushed around, finally understood the ultimate secret of judo. At the same time, the top student remembered Jiaming's mother's teachings. Sometimes to protect something precious, one must fight. He learned 3 moves. The first was to endure hits without closing his eyes. The second was to analyze and target vital points for self-defense, and the third was simple: attack the vital points. Finally, on the rooftop, Pai Hanwei and Jiaming's mother faced off. Unexpectedly, Pai Hanwei's combat skills were terrifying, and even Jiaming seemed unable to hold on for long. Meanwhile, the homeroom teacher discovered that the family had blocked the school entrance. Upon learning this, Jiaming launched a fierce attack on Pai Hanwei. Just as Pai Hanwei thought it was over, Jiaming decided to use the ultimate skill sealed by his uncle. At the same time, a familiar voice came from behind the crowd. Siwan had persuaded the school's male students to reform and protect their school and teachers. The next day, the disciplinary committee decided to expel Pai Hanwei, and he would pay for killing teacher Wu. Thus, Meteor Industrial High School returned to its rightful state, and Jiaming's academic performance remained stable. Such an exciting video should be watched with a partner. Many single girls with good personalities and high looks are looking for companions. Just respond simply, and you'll find more to talk about. Hurry up and meet someone. This is the wave to get out of singlehood.